Today on Locked On Rockies, the good, the bad, the ugly from the opening weekend of the 2025 season.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 31st day of March in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes, and soon you'll be able to get some updates as well. We're going to use the community tab there. Start giving you guys some posts over there on the YouTube channel so you can stay a little more up to date on what we're doing there and all the action we got going on there. So make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and being part of the show. Lots of people firing off their Rockies hot takes here, all on the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. Today on the show, of course, we're going to talk about opening weekend here, the good, the bad, the ugly. There was good stuff. Especially when you look at the fact that the Rockies did have a chance to win the series this weekend, but unfortunately, you'd miss out on the good opportunity of the opening day start from Kyle Freeland, and then you can't back your defense up, and you kick the ball around, and you throw it all over the yard, and you make mistakes. You're gonna lose ball games, and that's what we saw was the small sample size of the Rockies being unable to get over their own humps that they create. And I'll kind of explain on that here in just a sec. But before we dive into everything today, I want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can now get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins at FanDuel. Go check it out. So Rockies 1-2 after losing the series to the Tampa Bay Rays, even though Kyle Freeland had one of the greatest starts in his career. I believe it was rated the third best start in his career, something close like that. Exactly what you're looking for from Kyle Freeland. And boy, does that start have to feel real good for him. Not only obviously the way the game ended, the way everything went was frustrating, because the fact that the Rockies immediately blew it right after he was dominating that whole game, mixed in, of course, with the Bud Black decisions. And if you are a doubter of the Rockies organizational structure, if you're a doubter of the managing and the coaching of the Rockies, then you had a weekend that did not convince you otherwise. The biggest surprise, I think, and this, to give credit to the Rockies here, was they did not bench Hunter Goodman. That was huge. Clearly, one of the, if not the best player from the weekend was Hunter Goodman, someone that has clearly contributed in massive ways, both on offense and on defense. Talking about, if you remember in the broadcast from the game on Friday, the opening day game, he is stealing pitches. He is stealing strikes. And that is going to be massive to help Herman and Kyle Freeland. Another thing, too, Herman all the way back in the 4 spot in the rotation. I was shocked to see that. I did not anticipate Antonio Senzatella being the 2 and Feltner being the 3, but maybe it's a mix-up for here. Maybe it's something that the Rockies are just working with this 4-man rotation right now. But why would you change up the rest days and everything after you're already getting started and setting the precedent? I was shocked to see Senza there. So a little bit of it. But the pulling of Kyle Freeland, the lineup construction, and the hitting instruction, those flaws were all on full display. I mean, let's before we get to that, we'll stick with the good stuff here, because again, Hunter Goodman was one of the main signs, and the Rockies were able to get themselves in. What was different in this series than compared to last year, the Rockies were able to jump out ahead. Remember how many times we started the season for the Rockies where they were trailing in games, starting by trailing. But this was a road series in which the Rockies did get themselves out in front here in, I believe, was it almost every single game outside of the third game against the Rays. So 2 out of 3 games, the Rockies found themselves ahead. But you got to win those games, and you got to add on. I mean, oh my goodness, folks, the fact that the Rockies here struck out, let's see, they struck out 12 times in game 1. In game 2, the Rockies struck out 9 times. And then in the finale here yesterday, the Rockies struck out 10 times. The Rockies are still on pace to be striking out 10 times a game. It's not going to work. Flat out, plain and simple, you're not going to win. Why couldn't you add on and dominate and make it and back up Kyle Freeland? You can't stop striking out. And of course, you put the lineup had certain position players. I mean, KB cannot bat fourth. It's over. That experiment is done. DONE. And I'm glad to see it was done, but like until he figures it out, until he's confident, until he's comfortable, until he's in a groove, KB cannot be 5 left on base with multiple strikeouts in that first game. That's not the spot for him anymore. He's not that. At least not right now. Maybe he can get into a groove. He can and get moving there throughout the season, but that was a big problem. There were some big empty at bats in that series. I mean, bad strikeouts that we saw so much from the Rockies before. And you can't just sit there. You can't. That one's frustrating because there were good veteran at bats for guys as well in parts of this series, but I was not overly impressed with some of the veterans. Nick Martini had a big day on Sunday. He had a couple of nice hits, and what we saw with that veteran presence was, the ability to draw some, go deeper into some counts, get some stuff going on there. But the Rockies didn't walk a single time in that finale. No walks in the finale there. The Rockies didn't walk in the game before that. And then in the first game here, the Rockies did walk 3 times. I bring that up because that strikeout to walk ratio already so messed up, so skewed, and it ain't going to get better. My mic is not working with me today, falling over here. But it's not fully doom and gloom. The Rockies played good, close baseball throughout the weekend here, and if it wasn't for the first – God, man, that was a heartbreaker there, that walk-off. And it was weird. Did you guys see the history of they're the first teams to walk each other off on opening days? It's fascinating stuff. Florida, not really necessarily a place where the Rockies thrive, though. But I was really happy about. I think Hunter Goodman flexing that is a great sign. And of course, the last addition there to the Rockies right during the week, the Mickey Moniak signing, and he comes in his first at bat, his first hit for the Rockies is indeed a home run, and which is always a good sign. So there's some guys that maybe are popping up. Ryan McMahon had a pretty darn good weekend as well. Good opening day. There's still going to be some mix, but now it still shows just like the main concerns that we had are on full display, right? The strikeouts, the lack of pop, the lack of thump in an environment in which, it was interesting, of course. The wind was certainly a factor, the wind knocking some stuff down, but until Tolia hit his double yesterday, he had 5 strikeouts on the weekend. It's just so painful. So painful to watch how often this team strikes out. It is just so deflating again. And it's just like when you're talking about being surprised or looking for something different, it's not that surprising. The team that we saw this weekend had so many threads that connected to last year's team and the team before that, where there is opportunity, there is possibility. And like I said, the Rockies had a chance with behind Kyle Freeland's dominant day on Friday to get the job done, but they didn't. It's ice cold bats. It's inconsistency, and it's an inability to drive in runs. Kyle Freeland, only 2 hits given up on 7 strikeouts. And I agree that he should have been left in that ball game longer. He should have been able to go through the 7th and at least see what was going on. He was fatigued, yada, 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 whatever happens, blah, 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 blah. But then the bullpen comes in and it's immediately, and it's not one, or it's not like a teeter-totter. No, it's immediately the Rockies are in trouble. Immediately the Rockies are in trouble, mixed with the fact that they've struck out double-digit times. We saw that opening game play out time and time again throughout last year. And we even saw yesterday's game kind of play out as well, because let's be real here. The biggest, maybe possibly the biggest upside of this weekend, outside of Hunter Goodman, was the fact that the Rockies defense showed that they are legit. The Rockies defense is insane. The Rockies defense has the ability to win ball games and steal ball games like they did on Saturday. If you look at how many hard hit balls Antonio Senzatella gave up that day, if you look at how many things probably should have been hits, if you think about how bad Saturday could have gone if it wasn't for the fact that the defense was making every single play, you understand how important it is that how good that this defense is as good as it is. The defense being that good is what will help and save Antonio Senzatella. The defense being that good is what will make Kyle Freeland a better pitcher. It'll make all of them better pitchers. But as we saw in the finale there, you can't expect it to be perfect every time. And it's certainly still early in the season where mistakes and issues are going to happen. And it burns you quickly. How many runs scored on that error on a bunt? I mean, the day after the Rockies defense makes every single play, does everything right, perfect relays, incredible diving stops, big plays. In a close game, the Rockies, during a bunt down the third base line, get all out of sorts and throw a ball down the field, down into the outfield, and let people score. Consistency, consistency, consistency. How much do I preach that? How much do we say that here? How many times do we have to say that? Because they need to be consistent. You saw what happens when you're inconsistent, when it's an ebb and flow, when you're not playing your game, you're gonna find yourself in trouble. And that's where the Rockies found themselves in that finale. I'm glad to see that it bounced back into being a closer game there. But the Rockies going into that bottom of the sixth inning where had tied that ball game back up, had made it a situation in which that they are, they're right back in it. And then it's bunts, it's the small stuff, it's the weak stuff that gets in the way. Mixed with a couple of free passes from the pitching staff. That one was tough. I wasn't expecting that, especially when Ryan Feltner bouncing back and getting you what you wanted there, and really setting the tone there, but not really setting the tone, I should say, but bouncing back and what a spot for him too. I mean, it was not looking good, but then after that, it was lights out for Feltner for 4 more innings after that. Let's talk a little bit more about the starters here. And what we thought of the starting pitching performances over the weekend. And let's keep diving in to what we learned here from the weekend for the Colorado Rockies coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and more. You can even see who's cutting down the nets, and you can even check out some baseball stuff as well. What are you thinking? Maybe some futures. Maybe you want to get, something going on with this Philly series coming up. You can find your favorites or go for the underdogs, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. With tournament games happening all the time, there's always something to bet on, and the FanDuel app is simple to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We can find your team every day. Hey, one takeaway I think from this weekend was pretty impressed with the starting pitching just overall. 3 starts for the Rockies starters and only 2 earned runs given up there. However, it will be, like we talked about in the first thing, can Kyle Freeland replicate that? Are we going to see that, the version, the post-injury version of Kyle Freeland that we saw last year? Are we going to see that version of Kyle Freeland be able to continue and bring us the, starts like that? I mean, that was a great start. I mean, he was locked in, dialed in. It shows you that Kyle Freeland still is a pitcher that can be dominant in ways. He's not going to be the best pitcher in the league. He's not going to win Cy Youngs. He's going to be on the outside of that. But for the Rockies, he can be that tone setter. As mentioned there was Thomas Harding, I think, was writing about that as well. He is the right guy to lead this rotation right now. I mean, he is the guy that's kind of, even with his own injuries, has still been going through it. The injury stints haven't knocked him completely out, losing seasons. He's gone through these the slog here. And he himself has gone through the slog in some of the issues. The problem is the main concern, obviously, that we saw was that same pattern of, oh, great, we're getting great pitching and the offense is non-existent. And then, on the flip side, we'll see, oh, the offense is backing it up and then pitching's falling apart. But for Kyle Freeland, for what we saw, I saw confidence. I saw swagger. I saw a guy that does want to be the leader of this rotation. And I want to see that continue and be the guy to kind of continue to set the tone for his start, saying, I'm here. It's time to throw down, and we mean business. Kyle Freeland put the Rockies, had the backup with the runs. The bullpen let him down, but Kyle Freeland put the Rockies in a position to win that opening day game. The Rockies themselves put themselves in that position to win the opening day game, but they couldn't get it. Their bullpen was unable to get the job done. Guys that we need from the bullpen Tyler Kinley, the time is now. No longer. That was a tough first game for Kinley. And then he comes out and he lets up another 2 runs with a walk in a third of an inning's worth of work. These are the veteran, that veteran side of the bullpen needs to be something that the Rockies can turn to. These young guys are interesting and exciting, but there's still a lot for them to prove here. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And plain and simple, we can't be going through with 4 earned runs in 2/3 innings worth of work out of the bullpen. That's unacceptable, flat out unacceptable for the bullpen after Ryan Feltner, the only starter for the Rockies this weekend, to bounces back and put you in the position to be successful. The bullpen let down the starters big time this weekend. Big time this weekend. And the bullpen we knew was going to be question marks and all this and that and who's going to perform. You can't waste opportunities like that. You can't be blowing games that late in games, especially on the road. You're putting yourself in an awful spot there to be able to bounce back and make the adjustments that you need. But the bullpen was the big problem, but the starters hanging in there. Now, I think you have to be a little worried about, out of all of the starters this weekend, and I know he didn't let up any runs, and I know the Rockies won the game he started. But that Senza performance makes me worried. And it makes me worried because you're not going to get one of the greatest defensive games played by the Rockies defense every single time you step out on the field. The ball was screaming off the bat of the Rays. They were loud outs, and they were plenty of them. No strikeouts for Senza. 9 hits allowed and 2 walks. That's 11 base runners. And obviously, it was great that Senza doesn't allow any of them to pass, and they're able to hang on and get the dub, of course. But try recreating that game at Coors Field. Try putting that against the Dodgers. Try again. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Is Senza going to pitch in this upcoming? Let's see. So Herman, Kyle. Senza is going to pitch the finale against the Phillies. Let's be honest. Let's be real here, right? You're a little worried about it, or at least I am. Again, it didn't burn him that time, but man, I saw someone on Twitter, a Rockies fan, talking about how he just kind of nibbles at the zone and just kind of how it did just seem like it's like, man, he wasn't hitting the specific spots to get tough strikes, and he was not afraid, which has been his whole MO, of course. Is weak contact and let the defense back you up, and strikeouts aren't the main focus. But that was a lot of really good contact, and let's be real, a lot of luck for the Rockies. The defense is legit, but there's also the elements of luck that are sprinkled in there, and that is concerning to me. That's just way too much good contact there. Let's see if I can find Rays hard hit balls Saturday, March 29th. Let me see here. 8. Okay, so out of the hardest hit balls on Saturday, the Rays hit 8 of them. That's crazy. You just aren't gonna. You're just not going to get out there and get the job done. Man, I'm just looking at this. I'm looking at the sloppy defense here that cost the Rockies as well. But though that I am as pumped as we are that he got the dub and got the win. The warning signs there, because on the flip side, I was really encouraged by the Feltner bounce back yesterday. Little shaky in the beginning, gives up the 2 earned runs, not looking good, and then he settles in and goes out and gets 5 strikeouts and really starts settling into a good spot. Unfortunately, the bullpen unable to keep the game close in the Rockies. Well, it was pretty close. I mean, it was a 4-run deficit for the Rockies. Rockies able to get 2 runs back there. Just a quick recap, though, of the scores of the weekend. Rockies losing on the opening day off the walk-off. That was tough. 1 pitch in the bottom of the 9th. See you later. It's all said and done. The Rays head home happy, even though the Rockies are leading most of that game. Rockies take the dub in game 2, 2-1, and then losing in the finale 6-4. Good sign, of course. Rockies scoring a little bit, but strikeouts and lineup construction, I'm a little concerned about. Let's talk about that coming up next here on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. That was weird. Just had a weird hiccup that just like stayed in my chest right there. Anyway, this is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and bringing you daily Colorado Rockies talk. Shout outs to all of our everydayers out there and those that make us your first listen for your second listen of the day. Go check out our pal Sully on Locked On MLB. He's got you covered all season long, talking baseball for you. All right, so I think the other main takeaway from this weekend, and I was right there with people. I mean, again, this is the question marks where the managing comes into question. I don't like Brenton Doyle leading off. I don't know what the best way to move that around is at this moment. I mean, we've seen him a little bit of a cold weekend for him. I still like him in a situation in which he can drive in some runs more often. I like him a little bit lower, but I mentioned this earlier in the show. Chris Bryant cannot back cleanup. So many wasted opportunities. And again, I know there's the concept of Chris Bryant, and I know the concept of Chris Bryant is still very much at the forefront of the minds of the organization, but he needs to bat 6th. He needs to drop lower. It needs to be Goodman. It needs to be, you mix and match. I don't know. I don't love Ryan McMahon in the 4-hole either, but with the way that Ryan's was starting to swing in it, I like that. You need to find the true power to unlock in your 4-hole spot. I mean, it could be Tolia striking out a bit, though. I mean, you're replacing one strikeout prone guy to another strikeout prone guy. Is that really going to fix the situation here? That cleanup spot is going to be a real interesting place to watch. The Rockies need someone that can get into that spot and be the damage dealer. The Rockies were putting themselves in situations in which they could be putting up runs, but the heart of the order came up real empty for the Colorado Rockies this weekend. Just a situation in which they're turning to guys, and the what should be the power in the middle there just didn't pan out. And man, KB, I mean, there wasn't a lot of thump in a lot of stuff. It was he's the only person that started both of those games, those first 2 games, to not get on base, to not get a base knock. And then but then you come into that finale, Michael Toglia is able to get his hit, a hit from Hunter Goodman, including an RBI. Like, these are the type of guys that should be knocking on the door to be contributing in that 4-hole spot. But it's kind of tough that the Rockies don't really seem to have a true super dangerous, consistent cleanup hitter. We have the potential, we have possibility, and we have, the fact that some of these guys got that power potential. But are you really fully, truly confident to going with Michael Toglia in the 4 spot? Or, Hunter Goodman obviously showing that he might be the answer there as he continues to have had a good spring into what was a good opening series for him. But to see the Rockies have a lot of chances to score or do some damage when the heart of the order is coming up and it just kind of rolls over or it just strikeouts, that does just bring up again how do you go and just look like the same exact team going out there? And it's deeper and it's more complicated than this, but like, where was any sort of the offensive adjustment for some of these guys? Where was the change in hitting philosophy? Where was the thought of doing something differently? Is it just that we got to wait for whatever they're implementing and trying throughout the offseason to go in and for it to be different and give it a little bit more time because it's still super duper early? Or are we going to be saying the same thing in July? Because again, this is the same coaching staff. It's the same philosophy. It's the same everything. And we saw it in this weekend. The issues with this organization were on full display. Questionable decisions from Bud Black, an inability to come up with big hits and striking out in situations, and a bullpen that fell flat, underwhelmed, and lost the ball games. Like that's plain and simple. That's what happened. Inconsistent and weak offense mixed with poor pitching performances. And again, these are the same issues that we saw that plagued the Rockies last year. So what was different about the offseason prep? What was different about the spring training prep? What was different? Probably not a lot, because it's the same coach, it's the same manager, and it's the same hitting and pitching coach, and it's the same manager. We really shouldn't be that surprised that the Rockies opened up the season looking exactly the same that we've seen the Rockies before, including the lineup decisions made by the manager. Bud Black, rightfully so, was grilled. I mean, and I get it. He was winded. He was fatigued, blah, 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 blah. But I still don't think that was the right decision. I still don't think the lineup construction has been going in the right direction. I still don't think that this organization has a staff that's really going to unlock what's going on with these guys. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that the coaching staff and the manager staff proves me wrong, and that this team impresses and steals some series and makes us, makes me eat my words a little bit. I really do. Because really my biggest takeaway from this weekend was that looks like the exact same Rockies team as before. It really did. I mean, what we got Nick Martini, coming up, an exciting vet, doing kind of a Jake Cave-like performance this weekend with a good day on Sunday and a couple of other moments there. The Rockies stole one because thanks to good defense, but the offense fell flat and the bullpen wasn't great. I mean, how many times did you say that last year? And why I'm so kind of like focused and locked in on this being still a possibility this year is, again, there wasn't a lot of change. It's change in terms of the people making the decisions, getting the guys prepped, getting them ready to go, doing the coaching, establishing the philosophies here. There's obviously changes on the roster, but overall, again, it's this staff getting them ready and getting them prepped for games. And again, they looked like, again, a situation in which they weren't ready at the dish in certain situations, and the bullpen wasn't ready to go in close situations and be nails. And of course, that's talent too. But again, I just don't know if I'm not bought in to the lineup construction. At least where Chris Bryant was. I like the Sunday lineup. I like the fact that Hunter Goodman got the start. I like the fact that he's getting in there. I like the fact that we're, that left field, that we are seeing a young guy in left field. I do like these things. There will be intrigue with the Moniak move. I know I didn't really discuss it too much as just the way it went there, and he came in there. That was an interesting move with moving on from Hilliard, a guy that potentially has a lot of upside. But what I was told from Locked On Angels is this is a guy that swings and misses a lot. This is a guy that can hit the heck out of the ball and has a lot of that stuff, but an aggressive bat that swings and misses a lot, that needs consistent playing time. But he's an outfielder on a team that swings and misses a lot, with a team that hasn't been able to negate swinging and missing a lot. So again, is this coaching staff, is this managerial staff the right one to get the most out of these guys? And throughout through one series and what we've seen in the past, my hesitation is still there. I still don't know if I'm still not bought into that. And I hope they change the tune. I hope they change my tune here, because it is going to be a tough sledding here as the Rockies now go and play a Phillies team at home, looking to get things rocking before an Athletics team that has raised eyebrows for folks coming into the home opener on Friday for the Rockies. The team that you can't roll over and think, oh, it's just the A's. No. That's not how it works with them anymore. They have a team that's been building up and a team that, again, is starting to show, could show this is how you do it, Colorado. Whatever you're doing ain't working. But we'll see if the Rockies are able to get themselves back in the win column against a hungry Phillies team here again at a raucous. It's going to be bumping in Philly this weekend. So we'll see how the Rockies do against a Phillies team with high aspirations. Folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked on Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out our pal Sully on Locked on MLB. We'll be back in action here, rocking and rolling with you throughout the week here on Locked on Rockies. So make sure that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Fire off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked on Broncos, Locked on Avalanche, Locked on Nuggets, and Locked on Buffs, all free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked on Rockies podcast.